Batman Superman World's Finest, issue 33, Mark Waid writing with Adrian Gutierrez on the art. So you were a little bit negative on Action. I'm going to take that torch on this one because I thought this was kind of mediocre.
Let's agree then, because I felt the same. I had to read this twice. I started reading this last night before I fell asleep. Completely spaced on everything that was going on. Started it again. Still wasn't 100% clear by the time I got to the end. It feels very rushed, and I don't know why.
It's just very messy. There's a lot of characters at play. We've went back. I feel like we've went back and forth of like, we had the whole cliffhanger last issue of the Justice League all been turned to diamond, right? That was the big cliffhanger.
Yep.
And it was kind of like the Justice League were already in a predicament in the previous issue. They got out of it, and now you thought you were coming at me full strength. Oh no, I've just done something even worse to you. And I complained at the time, last issue, that it kind of felt like we just ended with the same cliffhanger again. But my assumption would have been that because it was like, okay, they thought they'd got their way out of the issue, they thought they had him beat, and then he just snapped his fingers and won instantly again. I thought there'd be more fallout from it, there'd be more consequence, maybe there'd be like more of Robin and that running around without the Justice League, and it would be difficult to get them back. But it's done within like 3 pages. Like they're like the Justice League are back in the first scene of the book.
Yeah, and it's because Robin had an amulet that Dr. Fate, charged up in case this sort of thing happens, because Batman always has a plan.
Yeah, it's just a MacGuffin that comes out of nowhere. It's just here's a magic device that'll just solve the problem. That I mean, maybe it was introduced last issue. I don't remember it.
I don't think it was.
But even if it was, it feels so quick and gives that cliffhanger from last issue. It just takes all the weight away from it. Like,
yeah, I never feel like Eclipso and the other guy are a threat, right? It just feels like, just Justice League, Justice Society in a scramble. Oh, here they go. They'll be back. And even the stuff that happens in there where Eclipso starts dispatching all of the different heroes, and you're just like, okay, well, we're getting towards, you can kind of tell when you're reading it, you're getting close to the end. And you're like, well, unless this is going to keep going, and then it resolves very quickly. And I was just like, there was a lot of those type of moments where something big happens, but it doesn't last.
Yeah, it's too much of a big cliffhanger. It's resolved very quickly the next issue, and then it's just more generic, like fighting for the most part. Like, once again, Eclipso starts taking over, specifically JSA members. He starts taking over in this issue. So there's a little bit of like, JSA Flash versus Justice League Flash. There's a little bit of JSA Green Lantern versus Justice League Green Lantern, so on and so on. And that's a fine idea. I just think that with how many issues this arc had, it should have been simpler, and then you could have focused on the one idea you decide to do instead of like going through all the ideas you had, and then by the time we get to the end of the arc, I feel like we just recycled through them so quick, and the bad guys just kept winning, but the Justice League just kept like being okay immediately afterwards. That everything had no weight. Everything just felt like it was easy to get through, and honestly, the arc was kind of a dud in the end. I thought it was fine to start. There is one great moment in this, though, I will say, where they fire up like a blast to the satellite, and Superman goes up to sort of basically just tank the hit. I thought that was a really nice page, like that panel of him like tanking the hit.
The art, for as messy as the storytelling is, the art is pretty good, like throughout. Every hero looks good. All the action sequences. The entire sequence with Superman and Batman that starts that, I think, is really well handled, because again, this is a World's Finest book that's originally a Batman and Superman book, but when you start introducing all these other characters, they kind of get lost in the shuffle. But here, this reminds you, the sequence especially, that this is still the Batman Superman book.
Yeah, it needs a bit more focus, I think, this story. It needs maybe a few less characters, or you can have a lot of characters being around in the background, but it really need to like focus in and say, these 2 or 3 are the main characters for this. And I guess arguably that's still Batman, Superman, and Robin, who have been the main characters of the book since the start, but it didn't really feel like it was like focusing on what they were going through here. It was just constantly, this is how we solve this problem, this is how we solve this problem, this is how we fight this villain, this is how we do this. Basically, it's lacking any character development. There's like no character story in here. No. It's just action scenes.
And then they end up winning by getting the Spectre to overpower essentially Eclipso's power, because he's the Wrath now, And we get a fun moment where the diamond gets destroyed, and then to re-put it back in, Superman crushes, you know, the splinters of it back together to trap Eclipso once more. You know, so again, but nothing seems to have a lasting effect, and that's a problem.
It's a fluffy story that just feels like you're never going to have to remember this happened because there's nothing of consequence that came from it, and it's not even like, oh, like a character was really tested in the course of it going on, like, because if it had been a case of, oh, the Justice League are all frozen, so there's going to be like 2 issues of Robin having to like, you know, level up and like save them, and it's something that he almost fails to do. It could be a defining character moment for a young Robin, but but there's nothing like that though. There's no character that benefits from this story.
No, or Robin having to team up with the Justice Society, all these old guys he doesn't know.
Right? Or that, or something. You know what
I mean?
Just something.
And you're commenting on legacy here, and this is why the heroes do what they do. But there's none of that. It's just Eclipso fight, Superman help. You know,
well, there's no commenting on anything in this. I don't think.
Yeah.
Like, just there needs to be something. It has to be about something. And ultimately, I'm like, this wasn't about anything other than just an excuse to have all the characters doing like actiony scenes for multiple issues. You know, because I forgot who the woman was at the start, and I'm like, oh, it's the wife of this.
Of the human Amazo.
Yeah. And that's
not Amazo,
Eclipso, yes, not Amazo.
Yes.
This book just kind of ends with like, oh, bye JSA. I mean, I will say this. It says next time the Batgirl Olsen Crypto Bathound team, which is a weird combination, and I'm down for more.
Sounds like free association of words. And I love that. You know?
Yeah, especially since like obviously we had the whole Robin Supergirl kind of awkward date in this issue. We've not had much Batgirl in this book, so I'm curious to see how Wade handles Batgirl.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and you have 2 gingers here, right? Olsen, Barbara.
Oh, I'm sure they'll bond. Over their like how people mock them on a day-to-day basis for their gingerness.
Yes.
Dear. Yeah, kind of a dud, honestly. Kind of a dud.
I'm glad I came in, I was reading this today, I was like, man, this is the first World's Finest in a while, and I was like, and I wanted like this.
I don't know. There's been some mediocre ones. Like sometimes, like some of these stories, like the Kingdom Come Earth story was kind of like this for me as well, where it mostly devolved into just a lot of fighting. But even that had a little bit more character than this did.
Well, that did because he was paying off what's his name, Sunboy or whatever it was.
Yeah, there was at least some stuff it was resolving, even if a lot of the issues did feel like it just was big action scenes. Yeah. So I will say, like, World's Finest is the thing that Mark Waid's doing at DC that I think is the least consistent, and it definitely dips a lot more than
let's hope he's getting all of his worst instincts out in World's Finest versus some of the bigger things he's working on.
Yeah, so yes, what are you giving World's Finest? 13?
I'm gonna give this a 5.5.
Yeah, 5 out of 10 for me. I'd love to go higher, I do, but I felt like it was just kind of a chore to get through because it felt like nothing was really happening of any value.